Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today, I'm going to be covering my Silphco Draft Association Beast Ball draft team. If you remember from the previous season, this is a Ubers draft league, singles, where you have up to 50 points to spend on 2 Ubers that are in the range of 20 points up to, I believe, 33 is the max for Kyogre. So obviously, if you draft one of the top tier Ubers, you can't draft a second for balancing, but it all works out. I believe we have a pretty solid team here. I'll have links in the bio to the Silphco Draft Association. I've recently joined the staff team there, which is a lovely opportunity for your boy. And hopefully we can continue to grow such an amazing server with some amazing divisions, covering everything from singles to VGC, national decks, with a bunch of fun formats along with tournaments all the time with Quick Ball. But we'll get straight into the draft here. Round 1, pick 6, we took Xerneas. Obviously, Geomancy is banned, which is why it's only 28, compared to, with Geomancy, it would probably be up there around 33, personally, I think. It is one of the premier fairy types in Ubers. It hits like an absolute truck with specs. It can do calm mindsets, and then it has the very possibility of going physical with a choice band with things like Play Rough and Horn Leech, close combat. It's just a very versatile, strong Pokemon that I really wanted to try in the singles draft, because I've never used it in draft, VGC or singles, so I figured this would be the premier time to give it a try. It cost us 28, obviously, so we have enough room for an Uber, which we would then fill in round 2 with Solgaleo, starting to build our Fairy Steel Dragon core, the Fantasy core, my preferred core to build around in most drafts. But Solgaleo for 22 was an absolute steal to me. Haha, notice the pun. It's a steel type, and it was a steal. But it pairs with Xerneas extremely well to me. It has good base defense stats, and it can hit like an absolute truck as well, with things like its custom Sun Steel Strike, which ignores abilities, so it can OHKO things like a Mimikyu through Disguise, which we really love. But it's just a very strong steel type. Its psychic type can also add some versatility to the team. It has a really good move coverage with things like Wild Charge, Flare Blitz, and it really started to put together our fantasy core in a way that I really liked, which would then lead into our round 3 pick, Garchomp. This was obviously the third member of our fantasy core, with Xerneas, Solgaleo, and Garchomp, which I believe to be by far the best fantasy core I could have drafted in this. Those 3 together pair extremely well and cover each other's weaknesses quite nicely. Obviously, Garchomp is an extremely strong Pokemon. With its physical moves, it can do things like Earthquake, Stone Edge, Dragon Dance, Scale Shot, and then it also has versatility with setting rocks, which I really loved. The possibility of having more offensive rocker, because last season we just had Hippowdon for rocks and Heatran, really. And if Heatran was rocks, we ran a defensive step most weeks, and then Hippowdon was obviously always going to be a defensive mon. So I really wanted to try a more offensive rocker as our main rocker this time, so we went with our boy Garchomp. After this, in round 5, we had spent a lot of our budget, so I wanted to budget down a bit and draft a solid bulky water. Originally, I wanted something like Rotom Wash, but that went off the board, so we went with Vaporeon here. It is a decently bulky water. It has such tools as Wish, Baton Pass, Heal Bell. Water Absorb is really nice for a bulky water, giving it that water immunity for things that would want to hit our later Pokemon, as you'll see next in round 5. But overall, I really like the versatility that Vaporeon gave us as a bulky water, because it has quite a bit of nice support moves on it. Then in round 5, we went with the Fire type to our secondary core that you see developing here, Bucephalon. Now, this thing, I wasn't exactly sold on it at first. I really wasn't, until a friend of mine, Lamaris, pointed out something that changed this Pokemon for me forever. As you know, Cortana is my favorite singles Pokemon of all time, and we used it last season to amazing success, taking the single best record for Cortana in this league ever. And he pointed out to me, Blacephalon is just special Cortana. And once he said those words, I knew I needed Blacephalon. Originally, we was looking at something like Infernape in this slot. But once he said that this is just special Cortana, I could never look at it the same way, and I'm very excited to see what this thing can do. It has a lot of powerful moves with Fire Blast and Mind Blow if we want to just nuke something. It has reliable stab with Flamethrower Shadow Ball. It can do things like Substitute. And then obviously with Beast Boost, you get one of those and the thing can be off to the races with a Scarf or even Specs if it outspeeds naturally for the week. But I'm very excited to see what we can do with Blacephalon this year. So then in round 6, we finish up our Fire, Grass, Water Core with Rotomo. At this point, we needed a good Grass type, and I also wanted something that was immune to Ground. And I also wanted a fast electric later in the draft. So why not take all 3 of those things that we wanted and needed, and fuse them together in a 10-point value mon like Rotomo. This thing can do a lot of things overall. It gets a lot of fun tools with things like Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, Volt Switch for good pivoting, and then it also can do some serious damage with things like Leaf Storm. Specs. And obviously with Spec sets, Scarf sets, we can trick to cripple some defensive walls and such things. Overall, I think Rotom is just a really solid pick that rounds out some of the Fire, Water, Grass core we have, while adding some bonus support by having Levitate to take ground moves for Solgaleo and Blacephalon. Round 7, we picked up our Mega. We went with Mega Heracross. This thing is a very offensive Mega. It is incredibly strong. It's one of the slower Megas, but I feel like we can make it work, especially with one of our later picks in the draft. But this thing hits like an absolute truck with things like Bullet Seed and Rock Blast, Pin Missile, Close Combat, Earthquake, Knockoff. It's just a very strong mon, and its typing of Bug Fighting can actually hit a lot of things surprisingly well, especially in an Uber's draft where so many things are either flying or psychic, so it has good versatility for the team, I feel. 14 points. Originally, we was looking at something like Mega Beedrill, which was cheaper and faster, but I felt Heracross just hit harder and fit the team slightly better than Mega Beedrill did. Then in round 8, we had to start budgeting, obviously, because we had just spent a lot of points across the 2 cores in Heracross. So we went for a budget Swellow. With Guts, this thing can actually hit pretty hard with things like Brave Bird and Facade. And then also you can run Spec sets, obviously, with Boom Burst, which will also hurt. But it's also just a fast attacker that we'll have to prep for. People will have to prep for in some matchups, because it can win matchups. It's also just a flying type for another ground immunity, which we really wanted on the team. Overall, I think Swellow will come to a few games and have some fun, but I don't think it's the most centralized pick of the team. Round 9, I found what I feel to be one of the absolute steals of the draft with Smeargle for 3 points. This thing is obviously Webs, is the main reason I wanted it, to help with Mega Heracross's speed tier. With Webs, Heracross will be able to outspeed many of opponents to obviously do massive damage with things like Rock Blast, Bullet Seed. But also Smeargle introduces a fun little guessing game of what set will I be running this week, because I can run things like the basic Focus Sash, Spore, Sticky Reb, Stealth Rock sets. But then also I could get more fun with it and do things like Scarf Transform and catch things on switches, which could be really fun in all honesty, and something that I will consider. But Smeargle, just any move in the game, 3 points. Its stats aren't the best, but with a sash or a scarf, it can actually do a lot of work. So I'm excited to see what we can do with it. And then for the final round, round 10, we took the 1 point Why Not. I won't make the same joke that I made last time for explaining why I took this thing. Instead, I'll just simply put it is the only returning member of our last season Beast Ball team. And I thought it was just a fun thing that forces prep against it in some ways, because it can just focus sash, shadow, tag, counter, mirror move, which should OHKO some things. It's just a fun mon to goof around with, and last season I was actually quite happy when it killed Mega Gyarados in that one set, so I just wanted to bring it back for some good fun. We'll take a quick little glance here at the overall team. You can see the type chart. Removing Why Not, we actually match into every single type without a negative, so that's very nice. Obviously, Why Not affects our type chart a bit, making us weak to Ghost and Dark, but also it's a Why Not, so it doesn't matter for our type chart overall. I feel comfortable with our speed tiers overall. They're not the best, but they could be much worse. I think Webs really helps with our speed tiers. We have Defog with Xerneas, Rotom, and Swellow. I feel fine with that. We have some Roar phasers. We have Stealth Rock with Garchomp and Smeargle. We have Spikes with Heracross and Smeargle. Obviously, we have Smeargle for everything that I could point out here, but that's beside the point. We have some Will-O-Wisp users, Trick users. Ferpolion with Flip Turn, Swellow U-Turn. Rotom for Volt Switch, so we have a bit of a turn core. It's not the best, but it could be much worse. Overall, I'm very excited for this season, and I'm looking forward to what we can accomplish in our second season of Beast Ball, after making it to the playoffs and losing in the first round last time to a bad matchup for us. But I feel confident with the team, and this is your Sacramento Scorbunny signing off. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.